Hello, I'm Julia Cordova. Thank you so much for subscribing to my YouTube channel and liking my videos. I really appreciate it. Today I'm just going to do a quick chart review. I was originally going to do a whole big thing about options and price action, and then I started listening to a bunch of interviews of people who are very smart. And I wanted to make sure I understood a little bit more before I did the video, because what I don't want to do is just a video for the sake of doing one. I want to make sure that something is actionable and understandable and something that we can actually use in our day-to-day as opposed to just learning. I mean, learning is good, but like action speaks louder than words. Anyway, with that said, let's talk charts. Ready? Whoop. All right. Okay, so let's start off by looking at ES or SPX weekly futures. I've got a sort of paired back in time here because I wanted to talk about a line, this line in particular, this purple line. You see how it doesn't look like that important of a line here, but if I went back in time and I looked at my Twitter feed here, and on May 30th, 2019, I had posted my weekly ES chart here. It got 10 likes. And you can see, you know, anyway, I'm just making the point that all of these lines were here. I did not add them. I did not subtract them. And here they are going back in time. And then this weekly chart just happened to nail the exact top of ES right before the pandemic. So the point is that these lines have been here for a long time, and the longer the lines I find that have been on the chart, the more valuable they are, especially when, you know, even though we had some chop over in here, it's such an important line that it nailed the top. So, and it was really the only line around here, right? There was really not a lot of space. Now I had turned this line into an ambulance line. It wasn't an ambulance line in the first one, but then when we hit this, I was like, oh, now it is. And anyway, my point is that a lot of times charts on Twitter don't get a lot of attention, and people don't get a lot of attention, and that doesn't necessarily mean that the charts and the people aren't super duper good. So you just have to sort of find other people and compare and contrast your own stuff and just see whether or not potentially they're good based on actual price action and not just whether or not they're pretty, whether or not they're exact. And another thing is, a lot of times if these lines were exact, everybody would be doing it. Everybody may be making money. So there's an art, right? There's an art to it. Now, why is this important? Let's go forward. Okay, so marked the top here right before the pandemic. Almost hit it again, and then again some chop. Not dissimilar actually to this chop, right? So the point is, for next week, especially because we had this kind of cute little, I don't know what the formation's called. It's like a red and then a doji and then a green. It's like supposed to be kind of a turnaround formation. It's only important that you know what it means and not what it's called. But anyway, we had sort of I'm gonna just call it a retrace week. It wasn't necessarily bearish. It kind of held above, you know, these previous lows. But for next week, in my opinion, it's very important that we hold above 38.20-ish or so. Can it dip below and come back? Sure. Yes. Charts love to irritate technical analysis that way. Technical analyst, y'all know what I mean. They like to irritate people that way, right? Because otherwise computers could do this. I mean, computers do this. But anyway, so very important we stay above that, and a breakout this week would be above, or resistance I should say, would be about 4,090. I have got a short-term price target of 41.83 unless we break this 38.20. Amen. Okay, that's the weekly. Let's look at the daily. And oh, I should mention also, you know, if you squint your eyeballs, could I draw another one of these divergence lines? Sure. Yeah, I can. I won't though, because this one got ignored. Anyway, watch out for potential divergence here. If price gets to this line, it should probably also, I think, get to this resistance line in RSI, and then the divergence, if there is some at that time, will start to matter. Okay, that's it. Let's look at the daily. Okay, so I did create a new line just before I made this video, this star line here, which is the same slope as this orange line here, and then the star line, the pink star below it, and these I'm just calling them intermediate pivots, okay? So anyway, what I'm watching for on Sunday night / Monday is 38.87 or so. Happens to coincide with one of those delightful MAs. I don't even know which one. Doesn't matter. I don't care. But a breakout will be above this 39.76 level, or this will be the next support on the way down, and potentially just, I think this is very close to my 36.80 level. That's weekly. The star line would be 36.89, and that would be as much as I'd like to see it go down before it's like, uh-oh, ruh-roh. Okay, let's look at Tesla here. So, I should mention before that. So, I'll just start here. So Tesla on Friday dipped below this support level here and then came back above and closed above it. Now, in my opinion, as long as it continues to close above this pink line, it's okay. And in fact, this is actually kind of a spectacular back test of support, right? Broke it, came back up here. Is it a fakey breaky? And I said when I posted my Tesla chart that no one asked for. I don't care. I like posting it. Whatever. Don't like it. I don't care. I said before, if it comes back and tests this pink line, I'd find it hard not to buy. So guess what? I bought it. Just a little bit, not too much. I didn't do options because I don't know what I'm doing. But what I think is going to happen is, as long as it continues to close above this pink line, or not too far below it, we'll have to look at smaller time frames if it does. But as long as it continues to go up past and not close below the pink line, I think it's a great opportunity for it to get to this next level of resistance, which is this blue line. Now, I never know where to put the marker on here because I don't know how fast it's going to happen. Somebody asked me that. They're like, well, when is it going to happen? I'm like, I don't know. I wish I knew, because then I'd probably be better at options. What really matters, though, is that if it does get to this line, of course, that's resistance. But if it breaks that line, this is a big channel. Now, I could put an intermediate channel line in here and add more lines, because I know y'all love when I add lines. And I will, if I need to measure a move here. But in the meantime, if it breaks out here, it's at the 800-ish level, then it's potentially going to the moon. And I don't like to say that. I don't like to say it, but let's just watch these two levels and see what happens. Okay, let's look at the NASDAQ. So on the weekly side of things, similar to ES, not a strong week, not a horrible week. We sort of ended mid-range of the past. Ultimately, this just looks like chop. Nothing bearish, nothing bullish at this time. So the pivots I'm watching for next week are, from a support perspective, 12684, and sort of I'm gonna say it needs to close above there, in my opinion. This line has not been breached in terms of closes, and that's what matters. Since it broke out here, nothing has happened to get us back, closing back below. We closed on it, above it. We're near it now, but it needs to just not close below it. Amen. And then a breakout of NASDAQ this week, if it were to have, a big, huge green week for whatever reason, would be 13,936. This number would move next week. Okay, let's look at the daily. That's what I wanted to do when I flashed back to SPX. I wanted to say that we flashed below support, which is this green robot line, and then ended up closing above it. Now, we did close below this sort of interim date. I use this, the reason it's dotted and the reason I didn't label it necessarily here is because for me it was sort of a midday pivot, above good, below bad. But we did close above support on the daily. So, and a lot of people, and actually myself included, I actually saw this before when somebody asked me what I thought was going to happen. I said, I think we'll flash down to the mid sevens and then potentially come back up. Now, because you see here, I'm not going to draw it in, because every time I draw something in prematurely, it doesn't happen. It's like the chart gods, just irritating me. And I leave it on there so that I can just remind myself not to do it. But anyway, do you see this potential little shoulder, head, another shoulder here? The neckline is not perfect. It's not a perfect neckline, but if I were to draw in a neckline, it would be somewhere around 13 to 7/8 or so. So, you know, if we were waiting for confirmation that this was in fact an actual thing, we would have it above 13 to 7/8. Okay? And as long as, again, I think it needs to close above this green robot for it to look like it's bullish-ish, in my opinion. But it washed below support. It came back above. That's all that essentially matters for me. Let's look at gold. Okay, gold on the weekly basis is actually starting to look okay. Does it look bullish to me yet? No, it doesn't look bullish yet. It didn't quite bounce off the bottom of this channel, and that actually gives me hope though as a bull, because some people and I were interacting on Twitter. We were like, you know, it never, gold in particular, it doesn't go to that place that a lot of people want it to go to. If a lot of people say, I'm gonna wait till it gets here to buy it, it's not gonna go there. Or if it does, it's gonna go way lower. You know what I mean? Which is like, that's why I like to scale in. So anyway, it's actually, I think, a positive sign for bulls that it didn't actually touch this bottom of this channel, because a lot of people would have said, I'm gonna buy there. You know what I mean? So anyway, we have some positive action. I like the way that GDX looks. I'll show you that in just a minute. But it's promising. I didn't actually label the top of this channel this week because it's so close to this dashed orange. I'll just leave this dashed orange as 1788.9. So 1789 would be sort of the number to watch this week if it were to break the F out, because it would have to, I don't know. I guess weeks do like to end ambiguously, so maybe it would end the week sort of on the upper end of this channel. But that's the number I'm watching for this week on the high side. If it gets back down to this lower pivot, which this week is 1648-ish, I'm going to say, then it might go way more down before it goes up. So it can chop, but it needs to start moving, get going. Let's look at silver. Okay, so silver is also looking constructive. If you squint here a little bit, you might be able to see what looks like a deformed bull flag. In order for this to be a deformed bull flag this week, it will need to get above the key area of silver, which is 26.94. Okay, it's got a key here. 26.94 is the area it would have to get above in order to start looking constructive. You can see that would also be above this next MA above it. I think that's the 9. So let's get it above the key level of 26.94, and then we'll talk. Now, if it gets back into this channel, boom, chaka-laka-laka, boom, boom. Okay, that's going to be like, what? Everybody buy silver immediately. Do not delay. Okay. That would be 27.71 this week. No, that was last week. Sorry. Was it? Yeah. Okay, so this week it's 28.07. I gave you false information. Okay. So let's talk about this bull sandwich here. On the 4 hour, I was like, this is really constructive, because finally we had something I liked, and it did go up, but then we lost it. Ultimately, it's, as of Friday at close, it's still above there, but it's still just consolidating. This is a good candle formation for a short-term scalp, but at least it wasn't bearish. So, yeah, just consolidation shop for now. Let's look at GDX. Okay, this is the weekly of GDX. Could it have been stronger? Yes. Did I expect it to be stronger? No, not necessarily, because a lot of people are now starting to be like, wait a second, is this turning around? And I feel like if there is huge movement, it will sort of be ambiguous for a little bit of time, so that not everybody is like, uh-oh, let's buy the dip. It'll be like, you'll know it's turned around when a lot of people will start asking, is it too late to buy? Not a lot of people have asked me that with GDX yet, right? They've asked me that with other things, but they've not asked me that with GDX. And as soon as you see people saying, because they'll see that I was like, oh, scale in, right here. And then as soon as you see, is it too late to buy? you better buy some before you even answer the question. Do you know what I mean? Because that's when they're going to get you. That's when it's going to be like, what? Like, and a lot of people say, I missed it, and I'll wait for a back test. Oh dear. Oh darling. No. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't work when I try to do it. It might work. I don't know. Anyway, that's what to look for. These are my pivots for this next week, except for no, they're not. Let me move them. Sorry. Okay. There we go. All right. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, here we go. So a breakout of this red downward channel will be 35.74. The martini will be extremely constructive. Now, when a lot of people said they saw a head and shoulders, I was like, what are y'all talking about? I should say that the head and shoulders that I saw when everybody was pointing that out, I'm like, yeah, we're going to get another bounce here, right? Right, because this is the shoulder. This is a big-ass head, and will it start to look like there's another shoulder forming if it gets to this martini line? Yep. That's why the dotted martini line for me is the, okay, if it gets above that, buy it. Buy it. What are you doing? Buy it. What's the problem? Okay. So that's that. Again, we're above the key, so that's bullish. Somebody could potentially buy here. I mean, I don't know. I like to buy at the bottom of channels or, whatever, but I could see somebody scaling in if they had some FOMO, put a third down, have a plan to buy 2/3 if it gets lower, and then have a stop loss depending on what your, what your goals are, how long you want to hold, etc. Let's look at oil. Okay, so oil, as per our expectations, I have to sound a little bit pretentious sometimes. It dipped last week, which is good, right? So, you have enough of these crappy looking red candles after a while, and usually the third time's the charm. Do I think it's done? I don't know, because I was looking at it earlier. I was like, I could see it coming down. It hasn't even, everybody, I heard somebody say that it collapsed. I was like, it collapsed? What? Because if you look at the amplitude of this weekly candle versus the amplitude of that weekly candle, they're about the same, right? Did anybody say it exploded this week? No. So it did not collapse this week. Let us match word for word, unless we're being dramatic. Yes. Okay. Anyway, it's really just back tested the 9 MA on a weekly basis. And, it's bullish for me. Look at me not even using my lines. It's bullish for me, though, if it's above this 20 MA on the weekly. So it could get all the way down to 52 and change and still look very bullish to me, and maybe more so, because that would shake out a lot of people that are all bullish, right? I would not be shooken out. But actually, I did take some profits already, but I would not be shooken if it gets down here. In fact, if anything, I would double down and so I would look for either if you're an oil bull, I would look to, potentially you could scale into some equities on this dip from last week. But, as long as it stays above the 9, I think it's absolutely fine. The 9 for this week is approximately on the weekly 59 and change. That would be nice to have another tail down here. So, I don't know if you're intraday scalping or investing or not, but oil is still very bullish looking. It did not collapse, and it can go all the way to 52 and change without collapsing. So if you weren't in oil already and you wanted to do a third, and then you wanted to have a plan to add 2/3 here and feel good about it, that would be one strategy for sure. Let's look at Natty. Finally, Natty does not have a weekly candle that looks like a waterfall crap fest. And it does have a little gap to fill here on the weekly, right here, okay? The top of that gap would be 2.586-ish or so. And contract roll, I think, is the end of this next week. But, or I don't know. It depends on if you're the mini or the maxi. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Who cares? Okay, so, yeah, it's... For now, they took it about as low as they could, because if they took it all the way down here, it's too close to this bottom, and it wouldn't have held, in my opinion. Okay, so a lot of the times, they'll take things down, and you've heard of max pain for options, right? It's also max pain for price of commodities or equities. They'll take something as far as they can go down without it causing a lot of other algos to sell. And I would like to say that I had a sophisticated way to figure that out, but really what I do is I kind of eyeball it and say, oh, you know, it's too close here, and if it gets there, it looks like it's going to continue. It may bump up from there, but it's going to continue down because it's too close to this previous low, and it looks weird. And just generally speaking, price action doesn't always move that way. So let's see what this next week brings in terms of a breakout for this next week. From the weekly channel, it would be 2.763 would be a breakout, and that would also be above these MAs, which are now together again. I had talked about this being supportive, but I mean, really what happened is we broke through it and then back tested it, like I said, to add to the short last week there. And then, okay, so that's where we are on natural gas. Let's look at coffee. So I had, I had kept this dotted line. It has a key somewhere on it? No, maybe I didn't ever put a key on it. It doesn't matter. So this 36.66 is very important for me. We came back, hit it exactly this week, and then we spent the entire last week just wah-wah. So can it go back and get below 36.66 this week and still be bullish? Yes. Will it look less appealing to me, at least short term? Yes, because it will look like maybe it would be doing a whole big megaphone thing. If it hits, actually, if it gets below this 20 MA and closes below there, God forbid, I think it'll probably go lower and try to form a giant megaphone, which is just the most irritating thing that could happen, in my opinion. So maybe that's a possibility. But ultimately, above 36.66, bullish. Below, wah wah, and then below here, bad. Below 33.14, bad for Joe. Okay, and then above this, this airplane line, cruise liner. They don't have rockets in TradingView. I'm going to talk to the management about that. Anyway, it's above this 40.78 level is a very extremely, extraordinarily, super duper bullish. Okay, that's it. So I'm making myself big. Okay, thank you again so much for subscribing to my YouTube channel and liking my videos. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you on the interwebs. Okay, bye.